short video on budgeting with an overview of what makes for a healthy and stable life. First, let's cover the brief overview of what counts for a healthy life. You want to comfortably make ends meet in the basics of living. These are healthcare, food, insurance, housing, and education. With food, you want a balanced diet so your body can absorb and process the vitamins and minerals it requires to function properly. Maintaining a healthy life is not only a long-term commitment, but a lifestyle choice. Now that we've covered what is a part of a healthy life, let's get to the important part, budgeting. Budgeting is one of the most important things you can do to manage your money for a stable life. What a budget consists of is what is earned, needed for bills and basics, as well as what should be saved. Make sure to take non-negotiable payments into account. A budget is for planning ahead so you aren't asking, why am I broke? A budget will most likely be recommended to you if you end up in debt. This is because it'll help identify expenses and prioritize them based on necessity. Now there are a few different things you can use to start a budget. Once you know which one of them you will be using, do a realistic assessment of how much money comes in and how much you spend. Make sure to list your income from all sources. After that, move on to fixed expenses and then varying expenses. Another way you could organize is separating categories into periodic fixed expenses, variable monthly living expenses, and unexpected expenses. Try to be as specific as possible when making a budget. Break down broad categories into smaller ones so you can more easily see where your money is going. Write down all your expenses, and no matter how you pay, write it down, you're still spending money. To help with a monthly budget, allocate yearly expenses. These include your taxes and insurance. You want spending at the top of your budget, as it is recommended to save at least 10% of your take-home pay, and to have at least 3 to 6 months' salary stored in an easy-to-access account. If you find you are overspending in some categories, there are a few easy ways to remedy it. Let's cover some common sections for overspending: food, entertainment, and miscellaneous. You could try cutting excess spending by packing a lunch instead of eating at a restaurant, spending less on recreation and habits, and since miscellaneous isn't specific, just try to keep it under 10% of your spending money. Don't take this as get the cheapest option you can. That may end up costing you in the long run. Make sure to look not just at the price, but also the value. Summed up, it means look at how often you will use it, and if the answer is pretty often, spending a little extra may be better. If you're looking over your budget and realize you can't afford something like your mortgage, contact your lender immediately. This is to avoid foreclosure, since most lenders are willing to work with you if the situation is temporary. The situation will be dealt with differently depending on your lender. The terms may be changed by extending the repayment period to reduce the monthly debt, and if it is reduced or suspended payments, you may have to pay an additional amount towards the past due total. Now, you want to be careful with large purchases like housing and transportation, as these are often places where people bankrupt themselves. If buying a car, make sure it is something you can afford. It is recommended you should be relatively debt-free, and you shouldn't buy a vehicle that is more than 50% of your gross annual income. Interest rates tend to rise sharply for long-term loans from a dealer, so you want to make sure to compare your options thoroughly. You want to budget for housing so you don't become house poor. Figure out if you should buy or rent a home. If you decide it would be best for you to buy a home, make sure you have 10 to 20% of your home's price saved for a down payment, and that the housing doesn't cost more than 30% of your household's take-home income. Remember that a budget is for controlling every dollar you make. You want to use it to make sure you can cover your lifestyle and future goals. From large to small purchases, it is important to know what your money is going towards, and a budget allows you to reflect on how these things are benefiting you and will help you notice if you can't afford something. So from all this, it should be clear budgeting is an important part of a person's financial life, especially with credit, since if you can't afford it today, you probably can't afford it tomorrow.